Harvey Weinstein was a titan of the film industry, the prolific and powerful Hollywood media mogul behind Oscar-winning pictures like Shakespeare in Love and Pulp Fiction. But on October 5th, 2017, all that came crashing down. On that day, a New York Times investigation led by reporters Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey was published. It exposed for the first time a decades-long trail of alleged abuse toward actors, former employees, and others. This included allegations of sexual assault, harassment, and a coordinated campaign of intimidation meant to keep women silent. Kantor and Twohey's reporting on Weinstein marked a milestone in the cultural moment known as the Me Too movement. In their book, She Said, which is out today, Kantor and Twohey reveal the inner workings of their investigation. Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey join me now from New York. Thank you to both of you for joining us. Congratulations on the book. And Jodi, I'm going to start with you. The two of you did help change the landscape, the cultural landscape in this country when it comes to how women are treated in terms of sexual misconduct. But what I want to ask you is, why do you think women before now have not been willing to talk about these kinds of things?
To be honest, in our experience, women sometimes still have a really hard time talking about these things. Even though Me Too has certainly changed things and hopefully some of the stigma is gone, women still have a pretty tough time coming forward, and there are two stories we tell in the book about this. One is about recent stories. One of the figures in our book is a woman named Rowena Chiu, who's really a kind of central Weinstein victim because there was so much cover-up of her particular allegations. And we approached Rowena in the summer of 2017. She wouldn't answer our messages or our phone calls, so we had to show up and knock on her door. And we reached only her husband, who knew nothing about these allegations. It turned out she had never told her husband. And for 2 years, we kept in touch with her behind the scenes. She wouldn't even speak to us until a few months ago. And finally, she went on the record in our book, and it took 2 years of discussion to get there. And then I think the other story we tell that's so indicative is the kind of saga of Christine Blasey Ford coming forward last summer and the behind-the-scenes story of that testimony, which is a really difficult story filled with tough decisions about whether or not to come forward publicly.
I want to get to some of the investigative reporting that you did. And you two, you knocked on hundreds of doors, you sent hundreds of emails and texts. Megan, what does it take? I mean, what did you do you think, that broke this story open that when others hadn't been able to?
Another one of the real challenges in doing this reporting is that many of the women who had been victimized by Harvey had also been legally silenced by him through these secret settlements. These have applied to not just victims of Harvey Weinstein, but victims of sexual harassment and sexual assault across the country. So when a reporter comes knocking, I mean, I'll tell you a story. There was a woman who had worked for Weinstein in 1990 and had been allegedly sexually assaulted by him. And we tracked her down to a family home here in New York, just outside New York. Knocked on the door. She opened it. She had a young daughter by her side, you know, looking up. And she said, I've been waiting for this knock on my door for 25 years. And yet, because of this secret settlement that she had been required to sign, she was terrified of speaking out. So this was just one of the challenges that we faced in the course of our investigation. But we also realized that these secret settlements that have been used to cover up misconduct for so many years, that if we were able to piece together the financial trail of payoffs, that it would actually help illuminate the misconduct.
Well, the work that goes into investigative reporting comes through loud and clear in your writing in the book. Jodi Kantor, what did it take to get prominent figures like Gwyneth Paltrow, stars, movie stars? I'm assuming without them, without their talking, it would have been much harder to get other people to talk. What did it take to get them?
The first step was to try to figure out how to even reach these women privately. We couldn't go through agents, we couldn't go through publicists. And then there's the question of, if you do get Uma Thurman or Ashley Judd or Gwyneth Paltrow on the phone, what do you actually say to them in the first 45 seconds of the phone call to try to earn that trust? But actually, things ended up working a little differently than you describe, which is essentially we realized that the Hollywood silence over Harvey Weinstein was holding. We were accumulating this stack of off-the-record, disturbing hotel room stories, but all of these actresses were very afraid to go on the record. So what we started doing was building a mountain of other evidence, and that mountain consisted of internal company records, the legal and financial trail of the settlements, a very important internal company memo, and it was really by having that evidence that we were able to make the case to Ashley Judd to get on the record, because we said, we're not putting you into a he said, she said situation where you're standing here alone. We have 25 years worth of allegations documented, and that becomes a kind of basis that you can stand on for coming forward.
And I saw that was part of the argument you were making to so many women. You were saying we owe it to these other women because of what they've have gone through to talk now. Megan Twohey, what about Harvey Weinstein himself? How tough a character are we talking about going up against?
Well, one of the things that we realized is that when we broke this story in 2017, it was really just the beginning. We had been able to connect some of the dots about his alleged predation going back decades and how he'd been able to cover it up. But what we were able to do with the additional reporting for this book was to really start to pull back the curtain on the machinery that was in place, that Harvey put in place to try to silence his victims and try to halt our investigation. That included amassing like a team of very high-powered attorneys, including Lisa Bloom, one of the most prominent feminist attorneys in the country, who made the remarkable decision to cross sides to work for him in 2016 and 2017 as he was trying to fight back this story. It also included Black Cube, this private investigative firm made up of former Israeli intelligence agents who were basically promised a $300,000 bonus by Weinstein if they could succeed in stopping our investigation.
Jody, how much do you think things have changed for working women as a result of your reporting and the reporting of others on Harvey Weinstein and other prominent men who've been accused in the last few years?
Well, what is so confounding is that everything has changed and nothing has changed at the same time. On the one hand, it really feels like we all lived through a seismic social shift, and there really is lots of evidence ranging from the period of kind of mass accountability after the story broke when all of these men were fired or had to leave their jobs, to the fact that there are some new state laws, to the fact that corporations are taking this much more seriously. We write in depth about the Weinstein Company because we try to show how this organization was trying to protect itself instead of protecting women, and in the process it basically destroyed itself. So on the one hand, there was all of that change. On the other hand, if you go into the everyday workplace today, especially for low-income women, does anything feel really different? It's still really hard to report. Federal sexual harassment laws are still really weak. And I think that there's also now a lot of controversy about Me Too, which can sometimes seem like a really productive debate and sometimes feel like just this huge argument that's not really going anywhere. So I think the question remains to be seen. What are all of us collectively going to do with this period that we lived through? What are we going to tell our grandkids about this era? Are we going to be able to say, I was there when things really shifted? Or are they going to be telling us, oh yeah, that still happens at my summer job?
Very, very good question. And Megan, finally, Jody just mentioned the controversy. One is starting to hear conversation more and more about whether Me Too has gone too far, whether men have gotten swept up in this who shouldn't have been. How does one know what's too far?
Well, listen, I think that there is absolute agreement by both accusers and the accused that there has not been the type of substantial reform that can guarantee that there's a fair system by which complaints can be made and vetted, and by which people can determine guilt or innocence, and also what accountability looks like. And so, listen, there's no question that there still needs to be a lot of systemic change moving forward to make sure that everybody is adequately protected. But we as reporters feel like you can't really solve a problem that you can't see. And so we really consider it our jobs to just continue unearthing the facts and helping to bring them to light.
Oh, remarkable to hear you say you are still reporting on this day after day after day. Again, congratulations on the book. She Said. It's Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey. Thank you both.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.